What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA. All right, everybody, look, once again, we got to talk about Snow White, Rachel Zegler Snow White, this mega bomb that Disney dropped just a couple of months ago. Absolutely one of the biggest box office bombs in the history of the company. We got to talk about it again because it's back in the news, if you can believe that. And I don't understand why Disney is putting this back in the news, but they are. You know, you would think after how bad this movie performed and the running joke that it became, you would think that they would just kind of quietly just let this thing disappear into the ether. Like, we're not going to talk about it anymore, all right? We aren't going to say anything else. We're not going to bring Snow White up. Maybe just to announce, yeah, it's going to be on Disney Plus. That's it. Okay, we put it on Disney Plus. We're not talking about it again. You know, just from the sheer embarrassment of it all. One of the biggest box office flops in the history of Hollywood. Look at this, man. This is to date $202 million worldwide. That's it. That's all. For a movie that costs probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $350 million, just the budget alone. Marketing was probably another $100 to $150 million. So you're talking about a movie that cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $450 to $500 million to make, and they only brought in $202 million worldwide, and they only get half of this, okay? They split this worldwide box office total roughly 50-50 with the theaters. So they're only bringing back about $100 million out of that. So we're talking about a movie that, you know, is going to lose somewhere around $350 to $400 million, and they want to drag this thing into the news again. It's absolutely hilarious, retarded shit. But what happened? Here's what happened right here. Steph from My Nerdy Home posted this up. In honor of Mother's Day, Snow White is re-releasing in theaters. Take your mom to see a movie about a stepmom who wants to kill her stepdaughter. Bruh. I said, look, if you take your mother to see Snow White in theaters, you clearly hate your mother. Clearly you hate that woman. If you brought your mom on Mother's Day. Not to see the OG Snow White. Like, you take her to see the original Snow White. Okay, I can see that because that's a great movie. You take her to see this trash. Look at it. Even Rachel Zegler's face is like, what the fuck is this shit about? Why? And I think it's just, look, Disney is trying to embarrass Rachel Zegler. They're going to keep dragging this thing out there, dragging her through the mud just to pay her back for all of the bullshit that she put them through. I mean, I just don't understand. Why would you do this? Aren't you embarrassed enough? Haven't you destroyed this franchise and destroyed Rachel Zegler any more? Like, what more can you do to her? And I guess that's it. That's the only thing I can think of. So, yeah, here's the article right here on World of Real. Disney re-releasing Snow White in 1,200 plus screens this weekend. World of Real said, I assume Disney is aiming to capitalize on the Mother's Day weekend with this decision, but couldn't they have chosen a more fitting film from their vault to re-release than Snow White? Yeah, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the OG one. I would have did that, you know? I would have re-released the OG Snow White. But see, then that would have embarrassed this Snow White, all right? That would have been even more embarrassment. I mean, can you imagine for just a minute if they re-released the OG 1937 evidently so classic Snow White and they released that in theaters on Mother's Day, and it comes out and it probably mollywops the hell out of this one. Snow. It probably would have did that 200 million all by itself. It would, oh my God, the original Snow White is back in theaters. Hey, everybody, grab the kids, grab family, grandma, grandpa, uncle, aunt, everybody. We going to the movies. Let's take moms, all the moms in the family. Let's take them all out for Mother's Day weekend, and let's go watch the OG Snow White. That would have been the final nail in the coffin for Rachel Zegler. They couldn't have did that. And it would have probably destroyed Thunderbolts as well. I'm just saying, though, it probably would have been the better movie. If you wanted to bring something out, it probably would have been the best movie to bring out. You know, the OG Snow White, because people were pissed off at this one. That's right. The Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot box office bomb is returning to theaters this weekend on 1,200 plus screens, even though it's set to be released digitally on Tuesday. The only possible reason I can think of for this is Mother's Day. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It is coming out digitally on Tuesday. It's dropping this Tuesday, so it makes even less sense. Yeah, Forbes covered it. Rachel Zegler dud Snow White gets digital streaming release date. And there it is. Snow White is set to arrive on digital streaming via premium video on demand on Tuesday, May 13, per Prime Video, where the film is up for pre-order at $29.99, which is a ridiculous price that I would never pay to rent this thing or pre-order or buy it or whatever. you know, which is also the film's purchase price. Digital rentals are typically $5 less. Okay, yeah, so it's $29.99 if you want to buy it, or if you want to rent it, it's $24.99 for a 48-hour period. It's not worth it. It's not worth it at all, especially a movie that got this for the box office. If you wanted to see Snow White, you probably could have caught that at the Dollar Theater on Tuesdays or whatever, discount Tuesdays. You probably already saw this thing. So, yeah, none of this makes sense except, you know what? We hate Rachel Zegler, and we want to embarrass her as much as humanly possible by dragging this thing back into theaters. See if we can squeeze some more money out of this, but we'll get more people laughing at talking at Rachel Zegler about what a giant failure she is. That's the only thing that makes sense at this point. Snow White grossed $86 million domestically against a reported budget north of $270 million. Oh, it's way north of that. Way north. Again, you're talking about a movie that had multiple reshoots. They had to cast a young actress to play young Snow White. So that's a completely different thing that they didn't have that in the original cut. And they had to add that to the movie, you know, to try to take some of Rachel Zegler out of that and soften the character up a little bit because nobody likes her. And then all of the money they spent on marketing, man, this thing, again, easily somewhere in the neighborhood of $450 to $500 million that they spent on this movie for them to only get $100 million. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. Try to squeeze as much out of this shit as we can. But since it did drop this weekend, we should have Friday's numbers. How did it do? Okay, so here's the domestic box office for May 9, 2025. Let's take a look. All right, so as expected, Thunderbolts, then Sinners, Minecraft, Clown in a Cornfield. Haven't heard of that one, but that's out. Accountant, that's your top 5. 6 is Fight or Flight. 7, Shadow Force. So wait, first off, it didn't make $100 million. All right, Snow White, that is. All right, Fight or Flight, clap that off. Shadow Force, Until Dawn, number 8. Number 9, The Amateur. And then 10 is Friendship. All right, so it didn't crack the top 10. This is bad, man. Number 11, Single. Hashtag Single. All right. Number 12, Warfare. I haven't seen that, man. I still want to see that movie. Warfare at number 12. Number 13, King of Kings. This is getting bad, y'all. 14, nope, is Guru Nanak Jahaz. What? Snow White, nowhere. Number 15, nah. No. Juliet and Romeo take in number 15. And finally, we get to it. Yeah, 16, Snow White. What a whopping $69,000. It didn't even crack $100,000 on Friday. That is some wild shit right there, y'all. Unbelievable. And there it is. This is the number of theaters you can see from this column. Number of theaters, 1,330 theaters. This thing averaged $51 a theater. That's it, per theater. That's the average. It probably cost the theaters more to have a kid that they needed to hire to clean up after this. Who am I kidding? They wasn't cleaning up after nobody. Most of them theaters was empty. Them joints was empty as hell. This is probably the theater employees or some Disney shills that went and saw it. We got to help the box office. We don't want it to look too embarrassing. What in the fuck was they thinking when they decided to bring this movie back out in theaters and only make $51 a screen? Wow, man. Like, yeah. So Disney, not through embarrassing Rachel Zegler, okay? Not through embarrassing this woman. Rachel is like, look, her career is done. I'm convinced at this point that Disney is the dumbest company on the planet. All right. They are the dumbest company on the planet. They have all the biggest IPs. They have Marvel. They have Star Wars. They have the Disney princesses. They got Pixar. They got all the big name IPs, the biggest franchises that you could possibly want. And every last one of them, they've destroyed. They've ran them into the ground. They are the dumbest company. I just don't understand. There was like a song, by Ice Cube called Doing Dumb Shit. I don't know if y'all remember that. I'm a hip hop head too, off of his second album, Death Certificate. Doing Dumb Shit. That should be like the Disney anthem. You know what I'm saying? That should be the Disney anthem. Doing dumb shit. I mean, that's what they do. What the hell is wrong with this company? I will never understand it. But yeah, anyway, what you guys think about this? Mother's Day, Snow White. Are you going to take moms to go out and see Snow White? All right. And then have your mother chasing you out of the theater, trying to get you back. Like, why you bring me to see this bullshit? Fuck you, throwing popcorn at you and shit. Dude, man, I just laugh at every single thing that Disney does. This is the dumbest company I've ever seen in my entire life. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Go ahead, jump down in the comments. Give me your thoughts and opinions on that. And thanks for watching. you next time.